Well, my family, when I was young, they decided to go to different countries. They they wanted to go to Kenya.
Kenya?
Yeah, and then we came Kenya, and then me and my brother left them. We went to Egypt.
Why? Why did you leave them?
Um, well, we came to Kenya. We was like, we wasn't have like good life. We went there to look at better life, to get some money to send them, some having some better life to them. And then we was there. I was young, and then my brother he started working, and then I was start helping him out. And since he get the money, he sent to my parents there in Kenya. So they was like helping their little kids to raise them. And then we came back to Kenya again. Still the same, nothing is different.
A refugee is somebody that has been forced to flee their country, their home country, because of past persecution or a well-founded fear of future persecution.
The difference is, immigrant is somebody who came to the United States on their own choosing. No one had forced them to leave their home country.
Refugees are a special classification of immigrant.
Whereas, the refugees have been forced to leave their home countries. They didn't have a choice on where to go or where to end up, refugees. So that's the main difference between refugee and immigrant.
The U.S. refugee program really started with the fall of Vietnam in the 70s. All of a sudden there were hundreds of thousands of refugees that this country felt an obligation toward because of the war.
There are thousands of refugees living in Utah, so it would be really unfair to generalize about their experiences. There are refugees who may be living in your neighborhood. You don't even know they're refugees. They may have been here for 10 years. They may be fully assimilated. And then there are other folks who have recently arrived and are wearing the traditional clothing of their homeland.
For the last 2 years, we have been bringing 4 major groups, refugees from Iraq, Bhutanese, Burmese, and Somalis.
Salt Lake was chosen as a relocation city, a resettlement city, primarily, I think, initially for the cost of living. It was relatively low. The jobs, the opportunities here were fairly high in the sectors where we've been traditionally able to find employment. So the service sectors, hospitality, manufacturing. I think the other thing that makes Salt Lake City a very good place for resettlement is that there are a lot of ESL programs. There are also a lot of people who have lived abroad and who've come back and who have the language ability. And the Salt Lake City community and the Salt Lake County community is very generous.
Catholic Community Services is one of the largest social service agency in the state of Utah, and also is the social services arm for the Diocese of Salt Lake City. Well, I've been working with refugees since ever since I came to the United States in 1994, I was one of the refugees sponsored through the agency, Catholic Community Services. We are dealing with refugees, people who are coming to our office every day, to help them with everything that, they need. Well, a refugee, most of them do not have a choice on where to end up. When the refugee case is approved to come to the United States, it is up to the State Department, to decide where the refugee end up. In working with 10 national voluntary agencies, which Catholic Community Services is affiliated with the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, where we have offices, the 50 states in the United States, and we do resettle the majority of the refugees that are coming to the United States. This is one of the very complex process that a human being can ever go through. A refugee, for example, when the civil war broke in a country, they have to, flee their home country and go to a neighboring country. So those refugees, when they go to the refugee camp, the international organizations assist them, to settle in the refugee camp. And then the U.S. immigration officers go to those refugee camps to interview individuals, to see if they have a valid claim that they can be resettled in the United States. We guide the refugee from the day they arrive up until they stand on their feet.
And then me and my brother left, then we went to Egypt. I was like 8 years old, and then my brother, he started working, and then I was start helping him out. And since he get the money, he sent to my parents there in Kenya. And our family, they decide to come with us.
To Egypt?
Yeah. And then they wanted to see what we doing there to get the money. So we was over there. Is a hard job. Every day you making big holes, like to make the restrooms, bathroom, to make all that. Hour they just pay you. That is called five shilling.
5 shilling?
Yeah.
Do you know how much that would be in American US money by any chance?
I think is it 25 cents?
25 cents?
My job, I'm the development manager for the International Rescue Committee, which basically means that I coordinate most of our fundraising efforts. We submit a lot of proposals. We cultivate major donors, foundations, and corporations. When we get notice from the U.S. government that a refugee has cleared all of their medical and security clearances, we're given their flight information. Here at IRC, they're assigned a case manager who will go and pick them up from the airport and provide a first night's warm meal. They'll take them to their apartment. Before a refugee arrives, we secure the apartment, we furnish it, and then within the first few days, they will go and enroll in programs in Salt Lake City. So they'll go and get their social security number, they'll enroll at DWS for any financial benefits like food stamps that they're eligible for. We'll also get them enrolled in English classes, and their children will start the process for enrolling them in school. The first week to a month is very intense for a refugee. It's sometimes overwhelming. It can be filled with moments of culture shock for them. So case managers are the ones that will walk them through that process and help them navigate. Even though refugees are assigned a case manager who will manage their case, especially at IRC for 24 months, there is a team of people here at the IRC who are deeply invested in their success, and that includes the health coordinator, the job developer, and some of our other programs that we have.
The mission of the Refugee Services Office is to support effective integration. Integration is not the same as assimilation or acculturation. Assimilation or acculturation are newcomers learn the way that the welcoming community does stuff. They do it like that. Everybody's happy. Well, we don't think that's good, because these folks, diversity is a good thing for a lot of reasons. If you want diversity and you want real integration, then the newcomers learn from the welcoming community. The welcoming community learns from the newcomers, right? They do stuff together, they learn from each other, and the result is a diversified community that is stronger and cooler than either one of the first two communities. If you buy that, and I buy it, but if you buy it, then how do you get there? Well, the first thing you got to do is you've got to allow the newcomers to feel safe and connected, and the way you do that is you get them together.
That time I wasn't speak that much English. When I try to answer some questions, some kids, they laugh because I don't know how to say it right. And then the kids, the teacher want me to answer it, but the kids make it funny of me because I don't speak English. Well, I tried my best to stand and then answer the questions. And then I was having one guy, Mexican guy, he was my friend. He helped me out too, to tell the friends, don't laugh, he's just learning English now, so don't make him funny of him.
The most basic thing we did, and I think some of the best journalism comes out of just listening to people, sitting on their couches, opening their refrigerators, seeing how much food they have, seeing what their struggles are and what their challenges are. They may not understand some of the basic services that are here. Many struggle with understanding and getting adequate food, whether it's through challenges with food stamps and other programs. They're often in housing that may not really meet their needs. I went to one family's house where 7 people were living in a 2-bedroom home, and you can imagine that was not very comfortable. The family would call 911 repeatedly because their landlord was so negligent. They had huge flooding problems in their home, so they would call 911 because they didn't know what else to do. It's difficult for anyone in America to find a job. It's difficult for people in Utah to find a job. For the refugees who are coming here with, in many cases, no English, in some cases, minimal to no education, refugees may not be literate in their own language, so they may not know how to read in their own language. And you can imagine that then coming into a situation needing to be trained, it's very, very difficult, and they're not always the first person hired.
If you can find a refugee a good job, not only does it pay for income and allow them to pay for rent and stuff, it's just psychologically huge. People feel like they have some control over their lives, over their destiny. They don't feel like, a lot of these folks have been living in camps for years. They weren't allowed to work. If you can get somebody a job so that they can take care of the family themselves, it's the best mental health support you can give somebody.
I work right now as the East High School as an administration, work with kid group, mostly as a refugee kid. But I work with all kids, different nationality, different religion. I don't discriminate it. I love to get education, to have a good education, then go to school, have a better life and a better job. I used to live in different places in Africa. I born mostly in city capital Mogadishu in Somalia. Then I keep moving back and forth where my daddy came from, the small city called Supaida. When the civil war started, then I came here to Kenya after 1996. We stayed in almost a month. Then within a month, we can't live over it. It's hard to live there situation, and there's no peace and security. And even the Kenyan police, if you told them I need to help someone, a friend or someone from my family, getting a problem or any kind of militia or any kind of people has a gun in your house and you trying to call them to get help, they're not trust you. They don't trust you. So it's kind of hard situation to live there, and wasn't good life where we came from. First time was in Mombasa and over there. Then we make decision to live there, to back to the city again in Kenya, Nairobi. We slept 11 days on the street, by the walk side. No room, no house, everything. 11, 12 days on the outside. The weather's too cold too. It was hard, tough to live there, it was. One of my family asked me if I want to go back one day in Africa, and I was like, no, right now. It's going to take too long.
Well, the Salt Lake community has been very generous and very welcoming.
You know, those who don't have anywhere else to go to, you know, we always are here for them.
Many, and I would say most, are grateful to be living in peace, to feel that their children are safe. That is why the United States is, and why any country is bringing refugees into their country.
In a few years, I think the refugee community is going to be very strong. It's incredibly diverse.
This community, because of its unique characteristics, has the potential for being the best place in the United States for refugees to be.
If you look at your life here in the United States now, is there anything missing from your life here?
Well, just missing like graduate and then get what I need in my future.
And what would that be? What kind of work do you hope to have here?
Doctor.
Education seems really important to you then. How are you doing with your education? Are you?
Well, I think I'm a good student. I go my class, I focus my work, and I turn in my homework or my classwork. Well, over there is like you gotta pay to go to college. So in here you don't have to pay.
If you're a good student.
That's why I want to be a good student, get the scholarship, and go to college. Having a better future.